Well, no, she can switch.
You don't have the comfort of convenience of having a shared
See, this is what I need to spread out.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
the level
Camera service.
Can you get me a program, please?
Sure.
I can see it from far away.
Oh, and I need to get a,
Could I
come in for,
I know, I keep
Yeah, I
looking
kind
over
of like
here.
it. I kind of like it that. Then I don't have to turn my head conspicuously and be seen looking at the clock. I don't want to do that. I was thinking we could stick a clock on the back of the piano if people hear one. Find some other place.
How are you doing over there?
I'll be right back.
Thanks to the, Alexa.
So-
None of it, because you're right, but I really appreciate the recording Lisa, because after all these many years of singing this song,
Couple wrong notes in
I
there.
was like, oh my god, I can sing it, you know.
Organized,
I can sing along notes.
clear,
Singing their part.
direct.
I'm just fluent. Nobody paying attention.
No, well, like,
Understand what you're talking about. I'll stop. You all don't have to pay attention. I've always pent up energy. See, I was walking. I just bent over to look.
oh, yes, yes.
No, because see,
Some of them are
flat.
good. Some of them are good.
They are good.
Well, I watched I watch a sermon in this room because it hurts my neck too much to twist it. And then I think, oh no, he thinks we're not paying attention.
thank you, I got two.
Sorry. I just keep, because I'm not looking. I feel like that's what I do because I'm not fully embracing it. I'm just looking at screen.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to inhale myself.
So did you get a one? Am I the second person to bring it to you?
You're the third.
Trisha's being so generous.
Bunch of overflow.
One for each eye.
Oh,
Well, my wife does the same thing. We've always got Chrissy on weekends. We tried bringing her a couple times. Shatters away.
How'd you like her? Yeah, she was great at it. She was the last of her generation.
There is a version if you need.
Yeah.
This is now an obstacle course.
Yeah, I'm gonna go jam with it.
You can come all the way around if you want.
It's actually really dangerous because she's got right here.
No, no,
Anyway.
I will not eat it on the steps, I promise.
That's not happening. We're taking good care of her.
Oh, funny.
I just feel like my voice is bouncing. I'm not really strong, I think, to that.
Phyllis, I am listening very closely to you.
So maybe you'll be standing right here.
I am listening
Trisha, watch.
closely to you. Are you gonna hit your head on that?
No, but I think my voice is going down. I'm probably going to be standing here, but I might lean a little more in.
Good. Oh, wait, weird. CCM had a John Waters marathon yesterday. CCM Turner Classic.
Whatever you have a night work
So I watched three of them. Maybe that's one of them. I watched right in a row. Yes, but there's one that I
What you guys think? We'll see if can Lynn Millett hear me in the back. Lynn Millett, paging Lynn Millett. Oh, talking to our friends at home. Glad you're with us. I think it's loud enough. We'll see.
Or it's got 4 different things on it. Adult choirs left and left, but also put no chat. Puppet drum.
Excuse me, I got someplace else to be. He's a doctor, and you met your children. Okay. And I have 2 children.
Good morning. Oh. All of a sudden I can hear myself, which means I guess it's time. You may have noticed that something is different here. It's on the other side. I know. Look, I told them that I'm going to get fired if this thing moves. And they promised me that that wasn't the case, so we'll see. Apparently, I have a tree growing out of my head online. So, is that the reason? That's the reason. That's what they say. So now we're going to try it over here. We'll see what happens. A few announcements to begin. Welcome to Mount Vernon Unitarian Church. My name is Reverend Ian White Maher. If we haven't met yet, I'll be, after the service, circulating. Please come say hello. I'd love to meet you. If this is your first time, if you've been coming for a few times, really, please come say hi. Welcome to everyone joining us virtually. We know you're there. We love that you're there. Thank you for being with us today. Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans yesterday. Next Saturday, November 11th, is our 61st annual holiday it's so good to be in community. Because we hold each other. It takes a village to get through these announcements. November 18th, whatever I said, ignore that. 40 artisans, vendors, baked goods. You might see a dinosaur. Who knows? Come and find out. If you're new and you've been kind of curious about how to get to know some folks, serving as a greeter here is a great way to get involved, make some friends. It's super easy. All you have to do is be like, hey, welcome. That's it. It's like no other talent beyond that. But it's very important for us. So if you think that's something you could do, I wonder if there's someone in this community that they could speak to. I see, Jan Speakman. If you would like to come and serve as a greeter, please come talk to Jan Speakman. She will be around. She's in red, like in the movies. 4 more. There you go. Our quilt raffle tickets are on sale. It's this quilt right behind us. They're $3. They can be purchased on our online portal, Realm, from the quilters themselves, or after Sunday service in the common right out here. The drawing will be held at the holiday shop, but you do not have to be there. I think the best way to your chances is to buy like 30 or 40. I just encourage you to think about that. Our circle suppers are coming up. This is our annual way to have a meal in members' homes. If you've been coming for some time, it's a great way to reconnect. If you're new, it's a great way to sort of really integrate into the community. A couple of art events. Nina Tessara and Steve Halperson are having an artist reception in the Commons later today from 2:30 to 5, and our new pianist, Ria Yang, is holding a recital at the University of Maryland Clarice Performing Arts Center on November 14th. So everyone should go, except for board members. You should go to the board meeting. Everyone else, go see Ria. Finally, next week after the service, we're celebrating Jim Kerr. We're going to have cake. Please come, say hi, tell him thanks. He's not going anywhere. You'll just see him in service now instead of sending emails. But next week, we're going to just thank him so much. Our lay minister today is Kathy McDonald, and our worship associate is Katie Casey. With that, let us begin our service.
Our chalice lighting is Our Legacy by Paul Sprecher. We light this chalice to honor the memory of those who have come before us, kindling the flames of wisdom in dark times, willing to challenge orthodoxy even at great personal risk, giving us a legacy of freedom and a love of truth, a legacy that warms our hearts and lights our path.
Please join in singing our first hymn. It is number 1024. It's in the teal hymnal, 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. Standing as you join in reading our covenant. If you're new, it's printed in the order of service. Love is the teaching of this church. The quest for truth is its daily task, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve life in community, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. This is our covenant with each and with all.
There's a children's book about a boy who finds a dragon in his house, and the more he ignores it, the bigger it grows. until it carries the house down the street. He discovers that it keeps growing larger because he is ignoring it. I had a dragon in my life, a dragon of fear. Fear that my life would lose meaning. And the more I ignored it, the larger it became. After 8 years of living in Taiwan, we boarded a plane to return to America, most likely not to return. It was the end of one era and the beginning of another. The future was uncertain, and this uncertainty manifested itself as a dragon that constantly told me life in the U.S. might not provide me with the significance that I had been experiencing. The decision to leave had not been easy, and a desire to exit Christian fundamentalism was a main driving force. I had spent 8 years fulfilling my lifelong dream of going to a foreign country and serving as a missionary, being of service to others. I have always craved adventure, never shying away from new and exciting opportunities. Living in Taiwan satisfied these longings. Now, I feared that I would lose this to reestablish life in America. The dragon I was ignoring, a fear that I wouldn't be able to find the level of fulfillment I had experienced, a fear of leaving behind life of service. During our years in Taiwan, we established a home, learned to speak Chinese, and developed lifelong relationships. I had a career teaching in an international school, immersed in a multicultural community with children from all over the world. We had left all our belongings in Taiwan, hoping that we could find a way to return without a connection to a fundamentalist organization. Maybe find a more progressive organization to continue a service in the country we had come to love and call home. The indecision hung over our heads. During this time of indecision, our oldest child came to us and said, "I know making the decision to stay in America or return to Taiwan is not easy, but we need to decide. The uncertainty is difficult." We did not return to Taiwan. We stayed in America. The children, just beginning their teen years, immersed themselves in school activities. I found the opportunity to further my education. We settled in Virginia, hoping that staying in one place during their high school years would provide stability. I was offered a job teaching GED classes in a women's prison. I began to feel the purpose I was seeking. We established ourselves in Chinese-speaking communities, continuing to use Chinese. Since that time, I've had opportunities to work in a multicultural environment as an administrator in schools, serving high-need, disadvantaged, impoverished students. And then, as an English as a second language teacher, working with children from all over the world, children of newly arrived immigrants. I realized that service to others has many faces. It was not an easy decision to leave Taiwan. I feared uncertainty, but facing it gave me the confidence to look for meaning in our new life. Taiwan will forever be in our hearts, the place our children have always called home. Even to this day, when someone asks them, "Where are you from?" they answer, "Taiwan." We did return. 30 years later, we made a visit, our children, their partners, and our grandchildren. My favorite part of our trip was our walk through our old neighborhood, stopping for a picture in front of the bright red gates of our former home. Yes, I even saw a few dragons while visiting Taiwan, but these dragons, a common symbol in Chinese culture, represented the strength, fortune, and wisdom gained in a life's journey.
Please remain seated and join us in singing 128 from your gray hymnals, 128, For All That Is Our Love. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good. Make our own days glad. For needs which others share, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
We come now to the morning offering. This month, MVUC is sharing the plate with Arcadia Center for Food and Agriculture. Arcadia works to improve public health through equitable access to better food, increase the viability of local farmers, and preserve the environment for future generations. Through its programs, Arcadia works to provide good food access and food justice. It raises awareness about healthy food and its sources, and it trains military veterans to farm sustainably. I invite you to contribute whatever you are most comfortable with to the Arcadia Center for Food and Agriculture and this church community. We are grateful for your donation. During the offering, you are welcome to come forward to light a candle of joy or sorrow. And now will the ushers please come forward for the morning offering.
invite you to continue our meditation as we enter into a period of silence, just allowing the world to become one. Accepting all of the little sounds of the room, the creaks, the slight movements. Allow it all to come in. Letting go of any separations, any distinctions. Following our breath. Resting in the presence of this place.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
That was pretty good. Nearly 25 years ago, some friends and I gathered in an apartment on the Upper West Side of Manhattan for a New Year's Eve party. And at some point in the evening, we were playing board games. And it was one of those games that sort of invited you to answer questions that were, they either posed a kind of an ethical dilemma or, invited you to reveal something about yourself. And I've forgotten all of the questions except for one, which read, what is the first thing you see, what is the first thing you think of when you see... Okay, now hold that thought. For those who can't read the sign, it says yes, all caps, exclamation point. And it's like no ordinary yes. It's emphatic, it's celebratory. It's the I'm all in, yes. And I loved this question when it came around that night. So as we were walking out the door to head out to some festivities, I grabbed a matchbook and I wrote, all capitals, yes, exclamation point on the inside cover. And all night, we just walked up to people and asked them, what is the first thing you think of when you see yes? And it was just a series of wonderful and candid answers from people who were confronted by absolute affirmation. Hearing the yes people were living with as we moved into the new year was inspiring to me and my companions. We moved from yes to yes to yes, each answer different, really so different from the last, but authentic in its own way. Some were hilarious. There was the woman who just laughed and laughed and laughed when we held it up, and we suspected something intimate. Some were tender, like the man who was playing pool. He was handsome and fit with matching chains on his neck and wrist, who solemnly looked up and just said, my wife, before leaning over and sinking the shot. Yeah, we all went, oh, good answer. That evening has stayed with me for nearly half my life because it's how I want to live. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be an affirmation. It's equally important to be clear on what we're saying no to. We can't be a yes to everything. But we have to be a yes to something, both individually and as a community. What is the yes living in our hearts right now? What are we, individually and as a church, moving towards? Now, we may not know, right? Not everyone on that New Year's Eve jaunt had an answer. Some stared back with a solemn, blank expression, like they were sort of caught in a glitch. And I didn't judge these people because, there have been times in my life where I wasn't sure if anything was particularly motivating. I would get up and go to work, not because I felt inspired, but because what else was I going to do? Routine happens. Typically, when we've lived for a goal instead of a vision, we have this moment where we achieve a goal. We've won that finite game. And it can often feel less exciting than you imagined because what was exciting was the pursuit. Settling into a pattern after that can feel comfortable. I know this is good because this is how we do things, but it's not particularly motivating. Living with a vision of something that's within easy reach of our comfort zone is not big enough. If we want to be excited and motivated, if we want to live with yes, then the vision needs to be an adventure. In every adventure story, the hero must carry a bag of resources to help them along the journey. For some, it's a lightsaber. For some, it's a bow. For others, it's a set of teachings. These resources don't always have to be objects. And in our case, as people walking a spiritual journey, I imagine us packing our bag for this journey that we're on with a set of virtues or dispositions that can serve like a compass. We may not be sure, we may not know where we're heading, but it's okay, right? That's actually okay. It's good to be humble when you're walking out the door onto a journey. No one really knows what the future holds. But these virtues can help us correct our course when we get lost. So today is the first in a series of sermons exploring 5 virtues that I think are worth adding to our bag as a community that will be needed somewhere along our journey. They are willingness, gratitude, generosity, agency, and hope. Now, you may have other virtues that you'd like to add, and I actually am really open and excited to learn what those are. We're not limited to these 5. The bag has more room. But working with these 5 should allow us to navigate the journey that's ahead of us. Now, some of you may be saying, I don't really want to go on an adventure. I like the way things are. And I know it's little comfort, but the truth is you're actually already on it, right? The adventure began when Reverend Kate resigned. Something happened that disrupted what was, and all of a sudden you were plummeted into this, okay, what now, right? And that's how it works, both in life and in the fantasies that we read or watch, right? The hero finds themselves confronted by an event that turns life upside down, and things are just not going to be the way they were. It's a call to adventure, and it's essential to every story. Otherwise, Frodo stays on the Shire. Luke Skywalker stays on Tatooine. Helen Keller never learns to communicate. Harriet Tubman stays on the plantation. Jesus remains a carpenter. The Buddha never leaves his kingdom. You are the hero of this journey. You are the hero of this journey, and you're wrestling with a question. And I hope that question is something that's more valuable than, how do we keep things just as they are? Right? It's not a very aspirational question. Some stories are more compelling than others, and that's because the question that they're asking is bigger. It's more meaningful, it's more exciting. There's more yes to it. So something like, how do we bring solace and companionship and liberation for the people of Alexandria, for the people in Hybla Valley? How are we, as a church, going to impact the 100,000 people who are within a couple of zip codes from us in a way that will change their lives? That's a pretty big yes. It's a much more interesting question than, how are we going to pay for Holland Hall? Which is a terrible question. It's very defeating. It's like, I don't know. It's endless. That thing is falling apart. It's not very exciting or motivating. It's maybe necessary for our bigger vision, but the bigger vision is the one that will carry us. But ultimately, it's not up to me to determine or discern what the question is that compels this community. You are the hero. You are the hero. So it's up to you to discern that question. Every story has a mentor that guides them. So Luke Skywalker had Obi-Wan Kenobi, a pretty good mentor. Edward Norton in the Fight Club had Tyler Durden. Charlie Sheen in Wall Street had Gordon Gekko. Not so good mentors, right? You hired me, and perhaps in a few years you'll find out whether it's good or bad. If not, you blame Evan. I'm just kidding. But the mentor actually never determines the question the hero is wrestling with, not in the quality and not in the magnitude. The mentor cannot compel the hero in any way, and in no small part because the mentor never finishes the journey with the hero. There will be a point when I leave, you will still be here. Richard has probably seen like a dozen ministers by now. We leave. You stay. So our term here, our time is here to almost like cheer you on. Say, you can do this. This is your journey. Ultimately, the hero must go into the cave and find out what is waiting for them. Right? It's treasure or it's failure. And what determines that is the quality of your yes. That will determine the difference. In every movie or book we watch, the hero struggles truly to say yes to their new reality. It's a trope, right? Something happens and they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And things just don't work the way they used to. They really want things to stay the way they are because they know the system. But ultimately, they have to consent. And consent is not often spoken of in the spiritual realm, right? There must be willingness in the hero if they are going to become something larger, more expansive, more open to risk. There must be a moment when they say yes, or there is no story, or it's just really boring because the protagonist just stays the same and they don't become a hero. And Katniss does not raise her hand and offer herself in tribute, but instead allows her sister to be taken in tribute. That's a bad story, if you know the Hunger Games. Someone does. You must say yes, or there's no adventure. There's a poem by Denise Levertov called Annunciation that describes the moment when the angel Gabriel visited Mary, the mother of Jesus. And regardless of whether you think of this story as factual or fiction, it doesn't matter. It's one of the greatest hero stories. And I'm going to read you this poem, but I'd invite you to close your eyes and allow your imagination to fill in the details. It begins, we know the scene, the room, variously furnished, almost always a lectern, a book, always a tall lily. Arrived on solemn grandeur of great wings, the angelic ambassador, standing or hovering, whom she acknowledges, a guest. But we are told of meek obedience. No one mentions courage. The engendering spirit did not enter her without consent. God waited. She was free to accept or to refuse, choice integral to humanness. Aren't there annunciations of one sort or another in most lives? Some unwillingly undertake great destinies and act them in sullen pride, uncomprehending. More often, those moments where roads of light and storm open from darkness in a man or woman are turned away from in dread, in a wave of weakness, in despair, and with relief. Ordinary lives continue. God does not smite them, but the gates close, the pathways vanish. She had been a child who played, ate, slept like any other child, but unlike others, wept only for pity, laughed only in joy, not triumph, compassion and intelligence fused in her, indivisible. Called to a destiny more momentous than any in all of time, she did not quail, only asked a simple, "How can this be?" And gravely, courteously, took to heart the angel's reply, the astounding ministry she was offered, to bear in her womb infinite weight and light, to carry in hidden finite inwardness 9 months of eternity, to contain in slender vase of being the sum of power, in narrow flesh the sum of light, to bring to birth, to push out into air a man-child needing, like any other, milk and love, but who was God. This was the moment no one speaks of, when she could still refuse, a breath unbreathed, spirit suspended, waiting. She did not cry, "I cannot, I am not worthy, nor I have not the strength." She did not submit with gritted teeth, raging, coerced. Bravest of all humans, consent illumined her. The room filled with its light, the lily glowed on, the iridescent wings. Consent, courage unparalleled, opened her utterly. You may open your eyes. I remember where I was when my spiritual director read to me this poem. I leaned into the phone as she asked, "And how many people do you think Gabriel visited before Mary said yes?" Honestly, the idea had never crossed my mind. The story of Mary for me always held the quality of predetermination, like she was destined for this particular role. It never dawned on me that there might have been others invited into the sacred relationship, others who, for whatever reason, said no. Of course, my spiritual director was not talking about Mary. She was asking about my sense of call and what would happen if I said no. Every relationship, if it is real, is grounded in consent. This is the heart of Levertov's poem. Mary was called by angels for a sacred responsibility. She defied convention. She endured the withering looks of those who did not approve of her past. She traveled so far, her body aching to bring the child into the world, her body aching to fulfill her sacred responsibility, the charge given to her by angels to grow God in her womb. I've always understood this as leading to an inevitable outcome. Of course Mary was going to say yes, but was that true? As someone who does not believe in fate, as someone who believes we must have free will in our spiritual lives if they are to have meaning, it seems that people must not only have the option to ignore their sacred calling, but often do. For me, the most important stanza, perhaps even the poem's point, is not about Mary at all. More often, those moments when roads of light and storm open from darkness in a man or woman are turned away from, in dread, in a wave of weakness, in despair, and with relief. Ordinary lives continue. God does not smite them, but the gates close, the pathway vanishes. We must have the opportunity to say no if there is any meaning to saying yes. The sacred bond can never be severed. The longing, regardless of our willingness to follow the call, never gives up on us. But the question invites us into a concerning space. If the call is persistent, and if people are constantly ignoring their call, saying no to it, what are the consequences of such an action? Even non-action is an action, right? It's just the worst kind of action. Feels like a missed opportunity, less like a missed opportunity and more like a living in in a sense of denial of purpose, a form of self-negation. If we are saying no to our call, does this account for some of the suffering we see in people? Is it the source of the suffering we see in the world? Look, I'm the worst at this. No, I'm not the worst. That's like too much, right? I'm like mediocre at this. I've resisted my call a lot. There have been times when I have sabotaged my prayer practice and my career and all sorts of things because I didn't want to listen to what the divine was telling me. I sort of had that moment like, if I just don't sit and listen, maybe it'll go away. But it never does. We did this new member class yesterday, and I was like, I've quit the ministry, I think, like 5 times. It's crazy. But I have one calling I keep coming back to. I think because it scares me. What does it mean to be in relationship? That's tough. My personal story looks a lot more like Jonah than Mary. There's a lot of running, punctuated by a few moments of like, okay, I'll stop running and I'll do it, only to be followed by like more running. And as much as it may seem like I've given my life over to the spiritual relationship from the outside, because maybe I'm standing here, I assure you that it has not been smooth. And I admire those who just seem to hear the voice and push through their fears and say yes to the call. So if it's not easy for you, we're pals on the journey, because it's not easy for me either. And I don't necessarily see this as a failure or a flaw, but I do notice when I suffer. I suffer when I avoid the sacred conversation. So it's important for me to stay connected to people who are also trying, like you, who are also trying to stay connected, to hold precious their spiritual journey and practice. I get a lot of inspiration from that song that we sing. It's Come, Come, Whoever You Are. It comes from a poem by Rumi. When we look to it, we look to Rumi for inspiration on the spiritual life, but I also look to him for empathy, right? When he writes, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again come. In his voice, in his poetry, in his prayer, I hear not only companionship for those of us who want to hear our call, who want to say yes, who want to live with the sacred relationship, but also compassion for those of us who struggle. And here I make a leap. It's a projection, right? I say that for Rumi to be able to write these words, he must have known struggle also. This is encouragement grounded in empathy, an invitation to join the dance again. You pick up where you left off. You hold the hand of fellow pilgrims as you step forward once again, once more, again, once more into the great mystery of longing. In our faith, we say that revelation is continuous. Right? We are part of a mystic tradition that understands the world is not profane. Nothing is merely natural. All of it is sacred. Everything is the incarnation. It's not just a single person. Everything is the incarnation. And just as we are part of God, and just as God is within us, so is the Divine Mother. each of us is also Mary. Within each of us lives the warm darkness of the sacred womb out of which the divine will be born. I don't have a physical womb, the kind that gives birth to human beings. I do have a spiritual womb, and I have been called by angels to fulfill a sacred responsibility to give birth to God. Each of you has a spiritual womb. Each of you has been called by angels to fulfill a sacred responsibility to give birth to God, however that looks for you. You are part of a mystic tradition that lives with the incarnation not as a historic event, but one that is birthed over and over and over again, because you bring God into being so that we might fall in love with it time after time after time. Revelation is continuous. That's what it means to give your consent, to become the womb for the divine. You are the hero of this adventure. I am a companion for a short time. There was an inciting incident. Kate resigned. I'm sorry, you're on the adventure now. The question is, what question are you going to let live in your heart? Is it how do we stay the same? Or is it how do we become the womb for God? Two very different questions. How many people did Gabriel visit before Mary said yes? How many people turned away in dread, in a wave of weakness, in despair and relief? I don't fault any of them. Childbirth is not easy. Your body will ache. You will be sore. There will be times when you feel alone and afraid. But if you have the ability to see, you will recognize the incarnation all around you. If you have the ability to hear, you can find comfort in the groans of all creation as we give birth to God together. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again, come. Amen. Please sing, please. Oh, no, you're right. Please rise as you're willing and able and join us in our final hymn. It is number 124. That's in the gray hymnal. Be That Guide. 124. 124. Please join in as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Source of life, God, my darling, inspire us to see the incarnation all around us, the whole world saying yes, the whole world responding yes. We see it in the trees and the faces of our neighbors. Awaken in us that deep, deep sense of interdependence, where we lean all the way in, letting loose the names and the fences and the boundaries that separate us, allowing us to just rest in presence. And fill us with grace so that we might find the courage to answer the call, to say yes in the biggest way possible, to head out onto our adventure together. Yes to the world. Amen. Yes. Before we head out, some people have asked about the thank yous I say, and it's I think I have been doing a disservice because I've been a little bit jazzy about it, and I don't do it because it's a performance. I do it because it takes so much to put this on. We are a volunteer organization, right? You agree to make this happen, and it would not happen otherwise. And so I love saying thank you and recognizing people because it's a sacred task that we've taken on. These are some deacons over here, deacons of AV, right? And we've got Raleigh and Marty and Mike and Doug. And the stress of making sure it all works together is a lot, right? And so we thank you. And the ushers who come early to fold, thank you so much. And who pass the baskets. We've got Georgia and Eric Porchot who keep us grounded in rhythm. We love it. Thank you so much. Ria, you were such a great addition, right? And this little light of mine, I don't know how long you worked with them, Mark, but it was gorgeous. And Holly Mala, thank you for with us. Kathy McDonald and Katie Casey just holding us together, giving us through. I don't say it as performance. I say it as we are a team hurtling through space together. We are caring for each other. Thank you so much for that. Let's go have some coffee.